The next announcement is about Ray on Databricks. Finally, Ray on Databricks is on GA because it has been in public preview for a long time now. And what this means is that we can just get it from by default on a Databricks Runtime 15 and onwards. So this means that you take your machine learning runtime, and then you can just use Ray very quickly, as we will show you.
Yeah. So can you explain a bit more like what it is? I think I have an idea of what it does, but it would be great to like have a better understanding of like how it actually works, because I'm not sure I grasp like the distributed aspect of it versus Spark.
Great. So what Spark does, Spark is excellent at data parallelism tasks. So what this means that if you think of your data frame, you can split your data frame in some logical parts that make sense. And you distribute these chunks to your different workers and cores. And then you apply transformations on top of them in parallel. And this is where the distribution power of Spark happens, right? So you apply the same transformation to different chunks of the data set that can be transformed independently to each other. Now, what Ray does, it brings us a different kind of parallelism. And that is the logical parallelism. So if you think of a task like a machine learning problem that needs to be tuned on the full data set and not splitting data sets into chunks, then this is kind of a more logical parallelism, right? So we have to parallelize the logic across the Spark cluster instead of the data per se. And this is what Ray brings on the table. Now there are a lot of optimization and efficiencies on how you can move from the Spark cluster to the Ray cluster and how to pass mainly data sets from a Spark execution to Ray execution. But that is handled automatically behind the scenes with Ray on Spark, which is amazing. Here on the blog, there are also some customer stories from Max and Spencer where they used Ray on Databricks to do hyperparameter tuning of models in parallel, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I have a customer that was able, so that's how I discovered Ray, that was able to like use like fractional GPUs in order to run their workload. So that's like, that was really, really impressive, like the performance improvement, and also just like make the most out of your GPUs instead of just using like 10% of it, using 100% of it.
So before Ray on Databricks, the GPU utilization was not possible to fraction with just Spark operations, right? So what you had one GPU, and then you were kicking off a training process on that GPU, and you could not use it for other processes in parallel. So if the process were just taking 10% of your GPU, then that is it, right? The rest of 90% of your GPU was remaining unutilized. But now with Ray on Spark, what we can do is we can say, okay, this process can use 30% of the GPU, where this process can use 60% of the GPU, right? And in that way, you can use your Spark cluster in the most optimal way. And then there are different kind of problems you can solve. A lot is going to happen on the reinforcement learning part. And most of the examples we have now are around the distributing traditional machine learning, as we said, like parallelized tuning or parallelizing training of models, but also a lot of work on how we can take single noded Python workflows and turn them into a distributed workflow, which is great. And in order to use Ray on Databricks, it's actually very easy. As we said, on the Databricks Machine Learning Runtime 15 and above, it's there by default. So you can just import it, which is excellent. And then this is how you initiate the Ray cluster. You say how many Ray workers you need to have and how many CPUs you need to utilize per node. So here we're saying that we're gonna have 2 Ray worker nodes. Each will have 4 CPUs. The autoscaling functionality means how many CPUs up and down, like to autoscale the cluster automatically mainly. We are on the Databricks cluster. We are already have kicked off a machine learning cluster in which we go and kick off a different process of the Ray cluster.
Okay.
Inside it, right?
Okay.
So these Ray nodes actually are not 100% associated with the Spark nodes of the cluster.
Okay.
So it's not one-to-one comparison actually.
Okay. It's great.
And then, of course, as you can imagine, since we are on Databricks, we can use all the different tools alongside the Ray cluster, right? Like MLflow, Unity Catalog, Delta Lake. So all the regular stack can be used with Ray clusters as well, which is amazing, especially when we are training models, machine learning models on Databricks with Ray. So you can still use MLflow to, run all your experiments and log all your different runs and models. And Unity Catalog for governance of models and data.